Hello everyone and welcome to Let's Go Financial. My name is David, and when I look out there in the world today, I can see that the financial landscape is going through a major change. It's a change that really only takes place once every few decades. However, the lessons from the past seem to be going unnoticed by a good portion of the general public. Yet those lessons of the past, I believe, are crucial for us to be able to understand so as to maintain our financial sovereignty going forward. Now, whilst no historical event in a financial way will be the same as what will take place in the future, there are some fundamentals throughout history that never seem to change. What are some of these changes? How will this affect the lives of the everyday person? And what lessons can we learn from history that can help us not only to survive, but to thrive going forward, particularly once the dust settles? Let's have a brief look at our current monetary system to see what state it's in so we can appreciate why there is an urgent need for change. Here is a chart from the International Monetary Fund which looks at global debt levels as a percentage of GDP. We can see here the accumulation of debt from the corporate sector, from households, the public sector, which gives us now a total debt of 256% of GDP. This is significant. Why is that? Well, it's like saying that you earn $100,000, but your debt repayments are $256,000. As a result, you'll never be able to pay this amount of debt down. That's why we can expect this entire trend to continue until we reach a critical point. This has been a direct result of the coordinated, unbridled restraint on the printing of money from the ones in charge of our global monetary system. You simply cannot spend more than you earn without getting into trouble, and this has been going on for years. But now, the world's monetary system has reached a more critical point. Why is that? It has to do with the attractiveness for investors to want to hold currencies or currency-related instruments. Now, I don't know about you, but as an investor, I'm always looking to get a higher return for my money. No matter which country we're living in today, just have a look and see what interest you can receive by holding cash in your local bank, like in a term deposit. Does that number look attractive to you? Does it make you want to hold more cash? Well, the yields on cash is similar to what investors can get in the bond market. So let's have a look and see what bond markets are yielding in percentage terms on an annual basis. Let's see what the numbers are to see how attractive they are to hold and what this really means for us all. So here are the annual yields to maturity on US Treasury bonds. The 5-year bond is giving a 1.6% return, the 10-year bond is giving a 1.7% return, and the 30-year bond is giving a 2.1% return. Now these numbers don't mean too much until you look at CPI, or the rising costs for the most common goods and services. So what is it in America? Well, according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, it is currently sitting at 7.5%. So by holding regular fiat currencies or currency-related instruments like bonds, you're effectively getting a negative return. Who wants that? According to the European Central Bank, it looks like it's a similar story there. Let's have a look at these yield curves. The dashed line indicates a spot rate based on all government bonds. So if you have a look at the 10-year bond, it's giving about a 0.6% return. The 20-year bond is giving about a 1.1% return, and the 30-year bond is giving about 1.3% return. Yet the cost of living, or the inflation rate, in the euro area, according to Trading Economics, highlights that it's been sitting at around 5%. So what have many investors started doing? Well, let's look at the gold and silver prices and see how attractive they look in comparison. We can see here we have the gold price, which is the spot price over time, and silver. In 1 year, gold has given an 18% return on the spot price. Over 5 years, it's given a 70% return, and over 20 years, it's given a 600% return. What about silver? Well, in 1 year, it's given a 0.7% return. In 5 years, a 56% return. And over 20 years, it's given 481% return. Now, how attractive does this option now look to you? Whilst precious metals can be volatile in the short and medium term, Over the long run, they have always been a great hedge against inflation. They've been typically easy to buy and sell too, but this may be changing very soon in light of the global political and financial problems we're seeing, coupled with transport issues. At a time when you may need these things the most, they can be the most difficult to get. But there is a lot more to this story. You see, today we live in a world of fiat currencies. That is, currencies that are not backed by a physical commodity, such as gold or silver. The printing of money continues at will, virtually unabated. And monetary systems like this never last, and the central bankers know it. Thankfully for them, though, with perfect timing, the world is witnessing a man-made economic collapse to distract from what would otherwise have been a natural destruction of the current monetary order, where changes would have had to have come into place regardless. On the other hand, it is difficult to get into trouble when you have a monetary system that is based on gold and silver. Hence, when fiat money fails, and it always does, central banks and investors always turn to precious metals. Have you heard the saying that says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if all else fails, go back to basics. So what are the basics here when it comes to our monetary system? Well, I found this website that endeavours to analyse and interpret the US Constitution. What does it say about what should be legal tender in the United States? Well, notice what it says in this paragraph. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. Why does it put so much emphasis here on gold and silver? Well, it's hard to inflate away the value of a currency that is backed by precious metals. That is because it's of limited supply and it actually costs time, money, and resources to take it out of the ground. In other words, it has fundamental value. It provides stability for the monetary system. You can give some gold or silver to your son or daughter, and in 10, 20, 50 years' time, it will still be worth something. Now, this all goes back as to why the Constitution was written to begin with. Notice what it says here on the same website, and I'll leave a link in the description below. It says, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defence, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." Now, do you think that America and the rest of the world could benefit more fully from these types of conditions? I'd just like to briefly show you why physical gold and silver complement one another as metals and why they are both a great asset to hold in our portfolios. Now, this chart looks at where the demand for gold lies. You can see here that more than 50% of gold is used purely for investment purposes. Silver, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. Now, here is a chart that looks at where the annual demand for silver lies. Now, we know, according to the World Silver Survey, that about 1 billion ounces of silver comes out of the ground at a fairly consistent basis every single year. And you can see here that more than half of it is used for industrial purposes, and less than half is used as investment demand. Central banks can't raise interest rates in any meaningful way without killing the economy, nor can they reduce interest rates without exacerbating the predicament they've got themselves in to begin with. They're literally stuck between a rock and a hard place. If central banks in different countries around the globe decided to reinstall confidence back into their monetary system so that people would be incentivized to want to hold their currencies again, then they would need to back their currencies with precious metals. 100% backing would mean that precious metals would need to be revalued much, much higher, so that a country's money supply would be equal to the value of the country's precious metal holdings. More about that later. So have central banks of the world been preparing for this possibility? In an article from the Straits Times, it said Singapore adds to its gold pile for the first time in decades. And this is an article that was written on November 30th, 2021. It goes on to say, Singapore increased its gold reserves by about 20% early this year in a largely under-the-radar move that saw holdings expand for the first time in decades. Halfway through the next paragraph, It says the move came to wider prominence when it was picked up in the International Monetary Fund's monthly update, which shows it was the first increase in figures dating back to 2000. The change in gold holdings is a result of the continuous and ongoing efforts by the Monetary Authority of Singapore to ensure that the official foreign reserves portfolio remains well diversified and resilient through economic and market conditions. Later on, it noted that after sitting on the sidelines for much of last year, central bank appetite for gold has resumed, in part due to inflationary pressures globally, along with disruptions in the energy market. It says the Central Bank of Serbia, Hungary, Thailand, France, Germany and Brazil added gold to their reserves in recent months, said the report. Russia, which built up its gold holdings to well over 20% of its reserves, is now ranked 5th in the world for the size of its gold reserves, the report added. The heavy gold accumulation by central banks points to an ongoing shift away from the US Federal Reserve note, or the dollar, as the global reserve currency of choice, and points to the ongoing shift in global economic dynamics. So there you have it. If the world had to go back to a precious metal standard, what would that standard look like? Would it be gold? Would it be silver? Or could it be both? Well, let's take a look at the United States as an example, who would allow either gold or silver constitutionally to be used as money. Each coin is 1 ounce in weight. The silver coin is made of fine silver and the gold coin is made of fine gold. The silver coin has a legal tender face value of $1, whereas the gold coin has a legal tender face value of $100. Just remember that a standard has to be something that is unchangeable. It'll be difficult to have a dual standard like this at the same time. That is because 100 silver coins will never always equal 1 gold coin, just as 1 gold coin will never always equal 100 silver coins. That is because the prices of the two metals will fluctuate over time based on supply and demand fundamentals. There is one school of thought, though, that is a solution to this problem, and that is to pick one as a standard for your sovereign currency's face value. There is also a way that the government can keep both gold and silver as circulating money, even if one is chosen to be the standard. A solution would be to say choose gold as a standard, then allow the price of the other metal, in this case silver, to fluctuate freely in price without a dollar designation attached to it. Simply have a floating price against gold for a fixed weight of silver. That way, both can still be used as payments. If you wish to read about this in a lot more detail, I'll leave a link in the description to this article that looks at the constitutional dollar from the Mises Institute. As we've seen, gold and silver doesn't need any assistance to perform well over the longer term, even though we are officially not on a gold or silver standard. So how high could the gold or silver price go? Well, first of all, you need to appreciate that the spot price of gold or silver today is determined largely by the derivative market. It's like fractional reserve banking, where Wall Street financial institutions need to hold just a little bit of the underlying metal to then leverage it up and create significant paper or synthetic contracts of the metal, which will then be used to determine the spot price at a level where they deem it appropriate. A lot of this is done on the COMEX, otherwise known as the CME Group today. You can see on their website, they state that they're the world's leading and most diverse derivatives marketplace. The US debt clock is one place we can go to determine what silver or gold might be in price if we go back to sound money. You can see here in the middle of the screen on the far right hand side, it gives a price of silver per ounce and puts it at $2,875. And this is based on the year-over-year increase in the US M2 money supply divided by the yearly world production of silver in ounces. The same is true for gold. It puts gold at $21,004 per ounce, again based on the year-over-year increase in the US M2 money supply divided by the yearly world production of gold in ounces. Sounds crazy, right? Well, look around the world today and tell me we're not living in a crazy place. Let's face it, in life we see many changes, but there are some things that never change, and that is the value that precious metals maintain. As far as I'm concerned, we can expect sovereign currencies to be backed by precious metals once again. It's the only thing that I see that can reinstitute confidence back into the global monetary system. It has been the common denominator throughout all of history. It has sound, stable, and confidence-inspiring fundamentals that mankind has always fallen back on. As far as cryptocurrencies are concerned, I feel that they are a big part of that future, but only as far as being able to tokenize that value and move it around on a decentralized network. So whether you see or like gold or silver or perhaps a little bit of both, we can expect them to do what they have always done. Thanks so much for watching. See you on the next one.